Penitent one, returned from the tomb, and walking among the mourners. Your awakening is now written on the eternal pages. Annunciada is my name, and I hail from the heavenly mountains on high, the seat and the beginning of all that is holy, so that I may address you. Look upon me thus as a preceptor in this enterprise, hailing from the highest of all seats. Penitent one, the miracle shall give birth to a new child in a great heart descended from the clouds that watches over the ancient city of the blessed name from on high. You must reach it to stop its birth, but on this ascending path of penitence, the Arch Confraternity awaits you. Those penitents that the miracle itself took as its sentinels now await your arrival. Orospina, the Confraternity of Embroiderers. Benedicta, of the Confraternity of Endless Orison. Odón, of the Confraternity of Salt. Lesmes, of the Confraternity of Incorruptible Flesh. All under the dictate of the oldest penitent, the first among them all, who was Eviterno, father of the penitents. Penitent one, the miracle has instilled 3 regrets in the consciences of 3 of its guardians. Only by revealing them shall you achieve the humiliation of the sculpted figures that hold up the city, allowing you to ascend to its upper reaches, and finally to the Great Heart. Look for the Guardian. Welcome to this palace. How silent, how mundane these luxurious chambers have been. Halls that were once frequented by the most distinguished of visitors. They all ended up staying here. Captives. Trapped. Petrified like golden... Dance now with my steel, penitent one. We will embroider your flesh in sacred torment, in a tapestry of blood and gold. On guard! Be witness to this vigil before my final journey. I, Orospina, am the daughter of the looms, of the mantle of gold and fine silver and scarlet and white, eldest sister of the Confraternity of Embroiderers, ancient secret of the needle and the thread. Where I go, naught shimmers with gold, and my graceful steel will never again adorn the air with its elegant silver calligraphy. Penitent one, you who come to witness the miracle, behold.
The memory of him still hurts. So it was that a humble married couple, torn apart by their inability to conceive a child, entrusted themselves in their utter desperation to the miracle. A miracle whose light seemed to have gone out in all our hearts. For having long ceased to bathe us in its benevolent radiance, we believed it extinct.
The warm and golden caress of twilight invites me to close my eye. Let the miracle cast open its black gates, so I might venture to where that terrible dream from which one never wakes awaits. Penitent one, you have encountered one of the 3 regrets. The first part of the testimony of the birth has been revealed to you, and the eminent sculptor figure of the Father has descended. Find the other 2 guardians.
Billowing clouds of dust herald your arrival. Dust in the air that is born from the erosion of the walls. These stones heard so many sins that they could do no more than succumb, shuddering before their guilty echoes that could not bear the seclusion that I imposed upon them, and that is crawling along these walls, eroding them until their immaculate penitent one, you will now reveal. Be witness to this vigil before my final journey. I, Radamés, spent my long life listening to the confessions of so many burdened hearts. Even after death, I could still hear the echo of their mournful voices, begging to be heard again, pleading for confession. But their pain never managed to bring tears to my eyes. One of those echoes, those incessant voices, was the very voice of the miracle, who commanded me to guard its sacred regret. I obeyed, and it was then that my penitent one, you who come to witness the miracle, behold.
But their plea was so humble and true that the miracle, whose lofty reasons are beyond our earthly ken, finally stirred from its slumber, aroused from its repose, and moved by the sweet melody of such noble supplications, it blessed this couple of devout believers, whose faith had never wavered, granting them the child they so desired.
The dying day already puts out its celestial light, causing my eyelids to droop. Let the miracle cast open its black gates, so I might venture to where that terrible dream, from which one never wakes, awaits.
Penitent one, you have known the second of the regrets, and with it, another part of the testimony. The figure of the mother has descended, full of mercy. Anon, the upper part of the city, separated from the rest by the miracle's design, will find the last.
I live again inside this merciless and cold metallic casing. I live in this cage in the shape of what was long ago my body. I live, and I feel that I am directed by forces that undermine mine own will. I live, although when I close my eyes in the intimate darkness behind my eyelids, I am still dead. be witness to this vigil before my final journey. My body has been returned to me, at last. I am now master of this flesh, of this trembling, of this agony. How sweet the pain when it is our own. Penitent one, you who came to witness the miracle, behold.
But the miracle, who bestows and wrests away its grace with inscrutable agency, saw its will tarnished in its prolonged absence. Erring in its newly created work, it conferred on that child as much its own as that of another. The blessing of deformity. It spread throughout our land, like a contagion. Its accursed seeds germinating like the wounds that sprout upon the scourged flesh of the repentant.
The dying day already puts out its celestial light, causing my eyelids to droop. Let the miracle cast open its black gates, so I might venture to where that terrible dream, from which one never wakes, awaits.
The full testimony has been revealed to you, and the counterfigure of the witness has at last descended. The three great stone figures of the family have humbled themselves before us all. Raise your eyes as the dazzling beauty of the upper reaches of the city of the blessed name welcomes you. Now go forth. Let not doubt leave its vexatious mark upon you.
How dark and uncertain are the rooms where the miracle allows us to see and talk to one another. Even after the deaths, even after the dreams. Penitent One, we are in the Chapel of the Five Doves, and before you prevails the narrative voice of the witness. All that remains of me is testimony. For my deceased body lies exposed in its urn of crystal and gold. You return from the long dream to avoid the birth. You will have need of the uncorrupted tongue that my mortal remains still harbor, whose forbidden whispers will guide thee on the path to such an undertaking. Release the 5 doves, and thus the urn containing my body shall be opened. Wake up now from this dream. The miracle shows us mercy, and bestows Never will I comprehend for what exalted reasons I was chosen to witness and narrate, for many eons have passed since it abandoned us. Oh, I see my request was granted, and that blessed pilgrim delivered my cast open the cages whose keys were stolen. Dove, who borrows thine color from the raven, escape your gilded prison.
Endless litany together, whose verses chain us to an everlasting prayer that transcends death itself. Join me in endless Orison.
miracle was to create a new icon, a symbol in which all our faiths, pleas, and hopes might be united in communion, so as to... Dove, who borrows thine color from the raven, escape your gilded prison. Lacking sufficient mastery, the miracle did fail in its efforts to incarnate, manifesting only in the form of disease, deformity, and pain. It spread more and more of its aberrations, like sores on diseased skin, in many places and on innocent bodies. Dove, who borrows thine color from the raven, escape your gilded prison. The gaze of an innocent, looking for a glimmer of hope in the visage of so much desolation. It took nay more than that, for the shape of a heart to be molded out of the air itself. Behind the most wondrous clouds that did turn the sunset crimson. Oh, innocent vision, you madeth the mirage true, relying on pure faith. 'Twas then that the miracle gained its last chance. Dove, who borrows thine color from the raven, escape your gilded prison.
The body of the lady lies before our victorious feet. Her curse, and the curse of this place, are lifted. My promise has been fulfilled by dint of your help, Penitent One. Before continuing on your journey, first take this as a sign of our blessed bond. Farewell, Penitent One, on the straightest of paths.
Anon this glass sarcophagus shall open, the relic of mine own uncorrupted tongue, and its secrets shall soon be yours. Then this shadow can give thee no more. I go soon to that lodging between light and nowhere. This shall be our farewell. Dove, who borrows thine color from the raven, escape your gilded prison.
The resting time between the thundering beats of the descending heart shorten irrepressibly, thus heralding the imminent birth of the new child. Hasten your steps to meet it, Penitent One.
This waiting, this endless waiting, has been my penance. The original penance, as old as the miracle itself. It appointed me first among penitents, perpetual by its grace, perpetual in awaiting you an eternity. My miracle, heed my prayer. Grant me thine blessing to fulfill thine holy command. Dress my body in wounds. Lacerate the tattered parchment that clothes my flesh. For I am the first penitent, and you shall be the last. Now let the Crimson Bindings finish what they once began. My...
The child is born. The clouds open up before thee and shed crimson tears. Thus begins the work of the High Dramatist.
Higher will. Incorporeal and inscrutable fathers. I am the heir of your all-encompassing light. Devotion itself embodied in weathered flesh and gilded filigree. Your magnum opus. Though I am crowned with your glory, why do you censure my presence alongside you? What is this obscure darkness of unanswered cries that prevents me from understanding the purpose of my birth? Are the same crimson clouds that heralded my welcome the grave omen of your judgment? If this confrontation is proof of thy dignity of your glory, then so be it. Doth thou respond to my pleas? With pain? Pain in the flesh. Yet your very flesh I am. Pain in the heart. Yet your heart itself I hold. My punishment will be your sole legacy. And I shall die. I shall die reconciled with the mystery of my birth.
The devotion of the many was made incarnate, and suffered pain. The affliction cometh to an end, for the icon falls, and with it, the miracle's designs, and its will so capricious. And so you shall ascend, both in body and soul, through dreamed kingdoms, to the holiest of places, to the cradle of all blessings, safe under our watchful eyes. And once there, you will be captured within the ancient canvas of light and time. The penitence is thus complete.
Now I understand. And for this, I offer thee my humble thanks. This pain is my baptismal sacrament that will unite us in communion to make it flesh. Thus, we will be reborn as a new symbol incarnate, overflowing with devotion. The beginning of a new era for the miracle. The second Psalm.